Thank you, everyone. Firstly, to the organizers for actually putting the focus on gourmet retailers. I think now is the time for the focus to be there on the gourmet retailers for us to get our place in the sun. Maybe not on the stage, but at least to get started, this is fine, right? uh, I think we have great representation in the panel here. Normally, what we'd end up doing is actually visiting each other's stores to get competitive information. It makes for a good, interesting discussion if we are actually able to get the insights right here sitting in front of you. So to get started, maybe firstly with Avinash, I think really the idea is for you to set up the context for the discussion. I'd really be keen for you to address the fact that, what are the kind of insights which are there in terms of emerging trends in world food from a consumer standpoint. What is it that the consumer is reacting to well? How is the perception changing? How is the adoption changing? And because of those consumer trends, do you actually see some retailer insights being drawn out and hence being part of our decision-making process?
Sure. Thanks, Amit. So the discussion was on emerging trends. So we'll start with what I have seen in my entire career journey for last 10 years in the gourmet space. So what now we are seeing is the plant-based food. So I think that category, because of the vegan, is popular. So we are seeing a lot of companies getting into plant-based food, and where you are having a plant-based milk, plant-based butter. So when you look at the earlier, like some 4 or 5 years back, nobody was knowing almond milk. Now almond milk is a part of a cafe. Almond milk is a part of everywhere vegan is happening. And now the other milk is getting popular is the oat milk. So oat milk is also getting popular in that space. Now when we talk about peanut butter, so for example, if you look at the breakfast table, in our own breakfast table, something like 5 years back, we will always see butter and jams in the breakfast table. But now from there, we have shifted to spreads, chocolate spreads, and now in the peanut butter space. So first category which I would like to highlight is the plant-based food. And now in the plant-based meat also is getting popular. The brand like Imagine, Shakahari, they're also getting a lot of space in the shelf. So I think that category is picking up as a new trend, what we are seeing in our stores. Now, second big category, what we are seeing is a functional food and beverages. So I think the other area where we would like to highlight, and that is what we have seen, and there are a lot of startup brands capturing that space, is functional food and beverages. Now, just to identify fortified cereals, green tea as a category, now black tea consumption is going down, and the health consumption versus like green tea as a category is moving up. And then third is your cold pressed juices. So the category, if you look at from a cola to juice and from juice to a cold pressed juices, that type of journey we have seen. And new thing which is coming up in the functional beverage is your kombucha. Is the one other thing which you see. There are a lot of startup brands coming up in that space, highlighting kombucha as a category, which is like still very niche, but it's very popular. It's like a healthy drink going in that space. And the other one on the functional side, if I have to highlight, that is effervescent. So like that category was not like nutraceutical. We have launched something like 5 years back. That category was not firing. But now you look at the trend change to effervescent as a category. Now you are seeing the brand like Fasten Up, the brand like Top and Up. So these are the brands which are now getting into that space, and people are getting into that conversion. Somebody is taking an Ayurveda route of like Panchamrit as a brand. They have taken an Ayurveda route. Now the brand like Top Up and Fasten Up, they have taken a fortified minerals like vitamin D or vitamin C, that type of category. So that I think is a good space what we are seeing in our store. Third, the other big category what we have seen where a lot of innovation is happening is on the snacking side. So if you look at snacking as a category, that is like most of the brands are getting into that space, because earlier it used to be Lay's, your potato chips, nachos, but now we are seeing everywhere, in every 1 or 2 months, you see a lot of plant-based chips is coming up. Then you see a baked potato chips is coming up. So there are a lot of innovation around snacking is happening. Snacking is not only chips, it is on the health bar. So health bar also, like there are a lot of protein bar, there are a lot of bar as a category, which was earlier like a very niche category for us. Now this is like competing with our granola and muesli. That is how the space, and that is how we have to allocate that space for the health bar as a category. And that is where they are competing with a chocolate as a more healthier option, as an impulse option. That is the third one what I have seen. And second, like the other area is the baking. So baking is one other category which I think after COVID, We have seen people are more passionate for their home baking, and since the disposable income is going up and the changing lifestyle, baking ingredients and baking accessories, I think that is one category where we have seen a strong growth in that area. So you are like a vanilla essence, whipping cream, which I think 5 years back, it was only used by only a hotel or institution. So whipping cream as a category is now a mainstream category for us. Whipping cream, fresh cream, these are the portfolio which is catching up big time. The other area which is picking up is a handcrafted, niche, gourmet, handcrafted, that type of belt. If you look at, there are a lot of new brands which are pitching themselves in that space of handcrafted, local gourmet. So local, while it was earlier, it was not in that space. Now the local is known to be a global. So that is what the thought is. Local is a new gourmet. What companies are catching up, and then you are seeing a lot of regional brands like Postcard. They are using this local theme, and they are getting it a brand route, taking the local route. The last, what I would like to highlight is the customer is now also getting more educated, and they want the source of the journey. So like, what is the source of this product? So like a lot of QR code, they want to understand from where the farm to plate concept, they are well aware of, they are educated. And there we have seen concept like bean to bar chocolate is picking up, because they want to understand, is this the right source from where we are getting? So I think that area of education is getting popular. Lastly, organic. As you know, organic was the trend which was like last number of years, organic is the big trend going on. But now what we are saying, it is coming into mainstream. So that is what we have seen. Earlier, organic was known to be like a very costly thing. The price parity of organic versus non-organic was very, like, it was very high. But now it is like a 15 to 20% premium. So now organic as a category is getting so much big that is now it is competing with the normal portfolio. So that is what I have to say from the perspective.
Thanks for those insights. I think one of the more pertinent points that I could gather out of that was that majority of the categories that you mentioned, like plant-based or functional or effervescence, are categories which have actually picked up in the last couple of years or 3 years, right? To that extent, I think it will be very important for us to understand from you, Sachin, and then Mayank, given that you guys have had extremely talked about store launches in the recent past, how have you actually captured those trends when you went about designing your store and assortment strategy?
Hello. Yeah. So very interesting thing is that we are in the kind of format where my consumer is much more knowledgeable, traveled than any of us. So the kind of feedback we get from the consumers on a day-to-day basis, and that's what making these categories grow. And beside that, obviously, we do check our pantry, and beside that, also social media also helps us to understand this category. And one very important factor is a strategic partner. See, we as a brand are associated with more than 300, 400 partners, but you need that one or two strategic partner. I'm saying in terms of distributor, who gets all these stocks from the different countries. So they become a strategic partner with you, and they guide you also that okay, this is new, something abroad, and which you can get in the India. So yeah, these three things I say that are critical from the new trend introduction in the store.
Sure. So, Mayank, what will be important for us to understand that, let's say for a brand like Nature's Basket with an existing partner base, that becomes an easier foray for them, right? Because there is access to that kind of information as well as customer data. For you guys, with your first foray at Food Square, how was it and how did you guys go about it?
So, honestly, I mean, what Sachinji did is hit the nail on the head. It's about your consumer and what they require and what they want is king, right? Eventually, they're the ones making that purchasing decision. And for a brand new retailer like us today, we have no option but to start with by just emulating in a mind map ki yaar, Nature's Basket or a leading retailer has these categories for a particular reason. That becomes a good place to start off with. And then obviously you iterate over time as you understand your consumer, you interact with them, and you gather the feedback and data. And that data mining over time will happen and take its own course. But to start off with, I mean, as a base point, wohi tarika hai, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yes.
I think,
What you mentioned in the beginning, it's not only customer, it's not only social media and strategic partner, even the competition helps. We also keep visiting competitions to understand. And the beauty is that every time when you visit, you find something new. I mean, all of you must agree to this, so, yeah.
So I think now moving on from consumers and retail stores, let's talk about ingredients and what are the kind of trends. So it'll be important to understand that in terms of, let's say, as retailers, where are we seeing the ingredient story move? What are the kind of products that are moving around? So there were some categories mentioned by Avinash in his opening remarks, but have we seen anything different in, let's say, your experience? So
Yeah, hello.
Rajat, you
Just,
could follow.
I just want to add something to my colleague's conversation. As we all know, the future is frozen. So, as per my perception, frozen is the next level where you can do many of the things. You can see your seafoods into that, the veg and non-veg. So you can be very easy to make it at your homes also. And the second biggest challenge in 3-tier cities, 2-tier cities is to make your consumers made educate to them with smaller events, or you need to now the people are traveling a lot. They demand you and you supply. That is the simple chain you follow. Everybody's follow that. But the major challenge in the smaller cities is to educate your consumer in the right way, and how should the things should be used and what are the benefits of that, and that is the way the business can grow.
Interesting that you mentioned tier 2 and tier 3 cities. I think, Rajat, before the session started, we were discussing about that. So maybe you would want to share some thoughts with the audience here.
Yeah. So when we are talking about a pan-India play, one category that comes to my mind in the world's food space is snacking. Because snacking is evolving at a different pace, but it is evolving for every consumer. It's evolving at a different pace, right? So someone who is buying a bhujia, he may want to move to a bhujia which is made in coconut oil, rather than buying a bhujia which is made out of palm oil, right? Or someone may move to a dry roasted cashew, or someone may move to a pistachio. But people are moving into different categories in tier 2 and tier 3 cities especially. So in snacking, I think what is very important is that we don't know what really the customer wants. So for example, a Ferrero Rocher. How Ferrero Rocher reached pan-India presence, and then how that impacted the sale of Nutella. And then finally how it impacted the sale of hazelnuts to the Indian market. So the introduction of Ferrero Rocher led to a greater acceptance of hazelnuts in the Indian market towards the end consumer. So the whole experience is to try and understand what the customer really wants. Adding to this, I think nomenclature of the product also becomes very important with the Indian market, right? So Avinash was talking about energy bars. Now, what we've noticed in tier 3 market is that when you introduce a product like an energy bar to the customer does a value perception in their own minds. So he back calculates what's the price of this per gram, how is it packaged, what is the value this is adding to me. And this finally leads to a comparison with a chicky. Right, so but chicky gives you equal amount of protein. It doesn't have a sugar. It's made out of jaggery, and then he calculates. Okay, this gives me equal amount of nutrition at a very value price, right? So if you call this energy bar a dry fruit chicky or a protein chicky, that gives the much better access to the customer and much more easier acceptance.
Sure. Thanks for all the insights. One of the thoughts that actually struck me when you were talking about the product categories is how a lot of them are actually in the temperature control genre, right? Be it frozen, be it chocolates, be it beverages. So Shrikant, will be good for us to understand, given your experience, what are the latest trends as far as technology is concerned in this space, and how, let's say, Blue Star is going about aiding the retailers in their foray as far as world food is concerned. How are you helping us maybe do better at our merchandising jobs?
Okay, Amit, you have touched on 2 points. One is on merchandising and the second one is on storage. So I'll take it both separately. We'll start with storage first. See, I think the most important thing when it comes to food produce is to store it properly, because if you don't store it, then there is going to be wastage. And I think that's primarily, I think that's very important factor that needs to be taken in as far as this trade is concerned, that any food which is not stored properly leads to wastage and finally to the loss of the overall profitability of the business. So I think as the retail trade, you must definitely have proper storage facilities for the different kinds of produce that you store and retail in. For that, yes, you may need to store at different temperature points. Say the temperature at which you store chocolates is quite different from the temperature at which you store, say, tuna fish, or say for dairy products. So therein, I think, that much of, cognizance needs to be given to your design of the cold storage facilities that you come up with different temperature controls, different humidity controls, and other conditions. So that aspect, I think, needs to be given a lot of importance when you design or have a concept for a new store. Now, coming on the merchandising aspect, and this is something which I keep insisting quite a bit, even internally at Blue Star. See, there has been a sea shift in the retail industry in the last 7-8 years. I'll take an example for you, since he spoke about frozen food. We are in the deep freezer business for more than 50 years, and I think Kumar in the afternoon mentioned we have completed 80 years as a company. Till about 2015, most of the freezers in the kirana shops and retail shops were all hardtop freezers. So there was hardly any merchandising happening over there. Whatever the shopkeeper dished out, as a consumer, I had to go and take it. But I think post 2015, we have seen a definite shift in the demand for the kinds of products, especially for freezers and other products and solutions, wherein merchandising is becoming important. Customer wants to have a look and feel of the produce. We are still a long way away from what we see in the Western markets or in the developed countries. Because if you see the way merchandising is done, say, in the Middle East or in Europe or in the US, you will find that near the cash counter, you will have an impulse freezer or an impulse chiller where, say, somebody can go and pick up his soft drink or pick up his ice cream requirement, or if the children are going with the parents, they can pick up some goodies for themselves. That concept still is not coming in India in a large way. So I think that's something that you can look at. I think for that, we also have solutions. We are coming up with freezers which are even lower than 200 liters, which you can keep near your cash counter. You can even have it in attractive colors, because I think color is one more aspect which definitely leads to an increase in interest as far as the consumer is concerned. So these are certain things you can do. Next thing is also, I think, we were seeing about the concept of open chillers in most of the supermarkets today. Open chillers, I think, is also leading a way for you to increase your sales, because the customer has a good look and feel of the produce that he's buying. I mean, the touch is most important, which was not there, say, 10 years back. So I think from the merchandising standpoint, I think the look, the presentation, and the feel are extremely important. And when it comes to the storage, as I already mentioned, you need to have each produce stored at the right temperature point, because if you don't store it, then there is every possibility that the produce can get spoiled. And then that also has a reputation on your store as well as in the brand that you're retailing in.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one thing. We have become very chiller, freezer heavy stores. It consumes a lot of electricity. Also, I hope you understand what I'm saying. The life of the compressor also has become very less.
I will answer you.
What is that from the technology part? You think?
I can assume the question comes from all of us.
If not now, maybe in a year or two, is there something which Blue Star is making to help us?
I would put it this way. See, I'll answer it in two parts again for you, okay, Sachin. See, what happens is, in many supermarkets, the tendency is to switch off the air conditioning at night or even in the afternoon periods. I'm not talking of the branded supermarkets, but I'm talking of some of the non-branded supermarkets. That definitely is going to have an impact on the units that we sell, because these units are designed to work at certain temperature conditions. So if it is a summer time and then say it is in the northern market, and if the air conditioning is switched off or the temperature goes beyond a certain point, the refrigeration unit has to work through the night, because otherwise it cannot keep your produce fresh. It's definitely going to have an impact. Coming on the longevity aspect of the chillers and freezers that you're using, it depends purely on the way you use it and also on the maintenance. If you have your proper maintenance, I don't see any reason why these machines can't work trouble-free for about 7 years.
I'm not saying they're not working. I'm saying how do we increase...
And I'm coming to the energy consumption point. It is the most important, I know. See, on the energy consumption, I was talking this afternoon also to Mr. Anuj from from RPG Retail. And I only told him one thing. I said, the one trend that we see in India, most of the supermarkets go in for plug-in units. Now, what happens with plug-in units is they dissipate a lot of heat inside your store. Your HVAC energy consumption is going to be high. I think if we want to be conscious about our energy consumption, a trend has to come in that you have to look at placing your condensing units outside your store. So that will definitely help you to reduce your energy consumption, bring down your costs of energy consumed. That's going to be one aspect. Performance of the machine will be better. I can assure you that. So I think that's very critical. Maybe it calls for a mindset change, but I think that's something that we have got to adopt going forward.
Okay, given we are good on time, I just wanted to deviate from the agenda a little bit. Wanted to understand if any of you have come up with a counter example of World Food wherein, you know, some of you thought that the product will actually do well, but the consumer didn't offer that traction. Any such examples that you could think of?
If I have to add, soya milk is one of the category that I think when it was launched, it was like something like 8 to 10 years back when Godrej launched this Sofit as a soya milk as a category, but that has never picked up, might be because of the taste factor. Might be because same thing when we replaced it with almond milk, the category has grown big time. So the same, because soya milk as a plant-based option was always there with us for a long time. But soya milk because of the soya taste, soya bean taste, that has not catch that. So I think that is one of the category which was, when it was launched, and it was launched with a full marketing, so that was a full support. Sofit as a brand will do very well with soya milk, and they launched some different flavors also. But I think that category, what we have seen, is still not picked up, in spite of vegan is on rise. But the category which is picking up in spite of more costlier is almond and oat milk. The trend is moving toward almond and oat milk. So I think the taste factor, what I see is very important, and soybean taste is still not on the palate of Indian customer.
Also, would like to add that we are discussing the world food, but in the past 1 or 2 years, our new age startups brand, I think they are doing pretty well than only the world food items. All the new startup brands, you name it, Wicked Good, Slurp Farm, etc. Consumers, they are bringing newness to the category. So gourmet is not now limited to the world food. There's a lot of newness is coming within India with many new startups. And actually, there are consumers who are actually buying them, and there are repeat purchases also for those. So this is something new for our format.
Yeah. Rajat, you wanted to add something? Okay. So I think the reason why I asked about some of these product failures is because I'm sure many of you would also realize this, that as an example, I run a format wherein we have about 20,000 odd live SKUs, right? For the consumer, it can be overwhelming with the choices that they have if the information about the products or the attributes about the products are not communicated efficiently. Given it is world food, some of it might not be really as advertised as Indian brands, or at least the legacy brands. Then are we as retailers actually going about our job properly in terms of educating the consumer properly about the products and what are the usage or the attributes that they could benefit out from? So just wanted to understand your perspective, Rajat, if you would want to.
Yeah, so the point that I wanted to raise with respect to this was, just wanted to check with all of you, whether the bakery segment within the world food space, whether that is being hampered by the presence of egg in most of the recipes, world food recipes, and whether that is affecting the overall acceptance. Now, for example, a donut, which has never really picked up in the Indian segment. Do you think it's because of the presence of an egg, which is not only dished by a vegetarian crowd, but even a non-vegetarian person who is more used to egg also doesn't really like the aftertaste of that product in India?
I think what I feel because of these categories, what you are saying is not egg related stuff because of health consciousness. I think that is one of the category why people were not, because there are a lot of trend moving toward health. So most of the indulgence category is not firing the way health categories are firing. So I think that is one of the reason what I see, not I think because of egg, any category is going down. I think that is a very
Yeah, even addition to that, even one more category, nutraceuticals. I mean, that's also one of the highest growing category for us. Overall, as a health as a segment, so gourmet now is not only gourmet. The customers are gourmet plus health. So it's moving towards that. If you look at overall health as a category is growing almost 60 to 70% year on year. Overall growth is 10%, but this category is growing 60 to 70% every year. So, yeah, there is a clear traction towards this.
So the merchandising part of the journey is when we launched an extra virgin olive oil in a very tier 3 kind of a town. Initially, a few customers, they came in and told us that we use this as a beauty application rather than in food. And we then merchandised it in the store that okay, this can be a beauty application, and it quadrupled the sale of that product in that town. So I think if such instances are.
So I think what I see as a potential of the new brands or the new categories is the sampling. So I think that is one thing which if we follow, if we give them education of the sampling, tasting, how the product uses is there, I think then there's a lot of demand which automatically creases, like extra virgin oil. Now if you use that extra virgin oil for a normal cooking, it might not give you that taste, but if you use that extra virgin oil for the salads, it will give you a different option altogether. So I think, but as a company, like whatever companies who are launching in that space, I think the responsibility, what we have seen, whatever product is getting sampled, the penetration of that product is much higher compared to the product which is just sitting on the shelf, and people are not educated about that.
In fact, a year back when we launched one store in Nepean Road, what we did is that we chose about 500 products, including fresh, and we, made a portal, and which was I created a QR code and placed, in front of those 500 SKUs, and it was landing to a page, which was giving the information about the product with a recipe, uses, everything we did, but hardly anybody used that actually, which means they know it much better than what we are thinking. As a brand, we tried all this, but somehow the consumers are not using these technologies. Otherwise, if you put too much text, then the look and feel of the section will not look good.
Yeah. So one of the examples that I can cite, especially for nutraceuticals as an example, which was a learning for me, is that typically you would have cash till displays as price optimal displays, wherein it was only about impulse products which were pocket friendly. What we did at Lamash was actually have these nutraceuticals placed on the cash tills for it to be more engaged, because the consumer is spending some time there. It catches the eye given the size of the merchandise is small, and the cashiers were trained on that, and that is from where the category is actually picked up. Given the pricing of that category, we thought it was a complete game changer. So that's
Master class by chefs. That's one of the good idea to educate customers. I think the response on master classes are good, and generally people follow the chef. So in that, with some master class with new trend or new products will help to educate the customers also.
I think adding on your point, Amit, melts at the brand. So I think that is one brand which I think when we have kept that brand in Castile and it was placed on the shelf of nutraceutical, it was not moving. As soon as we placed that brand on the shelf, on the Castile, I think that picked up is happening very much. So I think Castile, what you are saying, I think that is one of the other aspect for any new thing, new brand. I think Castile initiative is one of the good thing which we have done earlier also with the when Ferrero Rocher, we are giving example. I think that time, well, like some 8 to 10 years back, when chocolate category was always kept in the lock and key. So that time, Castile initiative done by Cadbury's with their gems done by Kinder Joy, I think that has really boomed the category of a 30 rupees portfolio. Otherwise, like 8 to 10 years back, always because of the pilferage, the category was always in the near your lock and key. So I think that is one of the important Castile. That is why I want to highlight that. That is one good thing for any new category to enter. I think that initiative, if we can take, there's a lot of chance to grow the portfolio.
Sure. We've had an engaging discussion before we round this up. Sandeep, would you want to talk about some of the challenges that we face as retailers in dealing with the world food category, or anyone else for that matter?
The challenge as such, as I just said a few moments before, okay, the biggest challenge is to educate people regarding the product. And Mr. Sachin just spoke about masterclass is the best way to educate people, which we are following right from 2 years. Every 1 or 2 months alternate, we have a session, different sessions of different coffee making with new products. But here the biggest, I would really request all the companies to, they have to strive about their product, because as they know their product more good, so they should be onto the market for the people, for smaller events they should go, not with the smaller product, but with the supermarkets too.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, regarding the challenge, what we have seen managing a world food store is more on the inventory management. So I think if you look at more of the world food product are mostly imported. So I think a proper demand forecasting, proper interaction with the importer, I think that is also playing a very important role in managing the entire your supply chain. So I think that is one of the key reason where you always see you build a lot of stocking, and at the end of the day, you are not getting the stock. So I think if that is where we are working very closely with the importers in developing a proper demand forecasting plan and supply chain to manage this issue, because that was a major issue in the world food entire concept.
In the spirit of making my job easier, Mayank, would you want to summarize about the session, and then followed by Shrikant on some of the emerging trends that you would see, which we all were fairly keen to hear about, but anything in terms of sustainable operations that we could actually look at would be a good note to close the session on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, I mean, customer is king, learn from him, iterate with that, and that was the primary initial takeaway in the session. And figuring out like the right way to merchandise, talk about the benefits or the product that you're trying to sell is super important, right? That information flow to the consumer, allowing him to make that purchase decision is key. And great merchandising for temperature controlled products, I think that's the new need for India. We're already, I think, moving well along with the support of Blue Star in that. And I'd leave it to Shrikant ji to take it ahead now. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the technology and sustainability front, what I can share is definitely as a company, we invest a lot of resources in the research and development for new technologies. So I would say the inverter-based condensing system that we have come up with recently for the cold storage and refrigeration application, that's a major step forward. I mean, we always had inverter technology available for the HVAC side, but for refrigeration is something new that we have developed. So that's one area where we have worked in, and that definitely helps you save quite a bit of electricity in the long run. So the return on investment, say if you look at a capex over, say, a 5-year period, is quite substantial. Maybe you have an initial capex, but you recover the money over a 5-year period. And this is an ongoing process, so we are also seeing what are the other advancements we can bring in. So that's something which is an ongoing program internally at Blue Star. On the sustainability front, today, if you take the cold room panels, everybody switched over to cyclopentane. It's become mandatory. So that's something on the sustainability front on the foaming agents. Again, if you take the refrigerants, I think today, as far as the smaller units are concerned, most of the units come with hydrocarbon refrigerants. And I think today, India is definitely moving forward in the adoption of new refrigerants as well. So you have refrigerants like 448, etc., which is easily available, which was not the case, say, 5-6 years back. So from the global warming and ozone depletion potential also, I think we are well covered. We have the best of technologies available. And as a company, we are committed to bringing in the best for the market so that what we offer to the customer is the latest as far as the technology is concerned, as far as sustainability and the environment is concerned.
I think that's that. We are good on time. Thank you all for your insightful views. Thank you to the audience. What we lacked in quantity was perhaps made up by quality. So thank you.